It starts in a place that looks peaceful. Clean lines, smiling faces, the hum of routines that keep life moving forward. You wake up, check your phone, pour your coffee, get to work. Nothing feels wrong. Nothing looks broken. It's all fine. But there's a quiet beneath the surface, a silence that doesn't soothe. It hums like static. It's in the pauses of conversation, in the empty spaces between meetings, in the evenings where you scroll without really looking. Life continues. You perform your part, and everyone else seems to do the same. This is what we were taught to want: stability, efficiency, a schedule. You laugh when you're supposed to. You keep moving, doing, replying. The world rewards functionality. So you function. But somewhere, you don't know exactly when, the color began to fade. Not all at once, just a little at a time. Moments that used to move you feel flat. Things that once gave you energy feel like tasks. You're not unhappy. You're just numb. It's subtle. A kind of emotional white noise. You look around and nothing's wrong. But nothing feels deeply right either. You wonder if it's just stress, or burnout, or hormones, or weather. You tell yourself it'll pass. You've got no real reason to feel this way. And that only makes it worse. You start avoiding the question, how are you really? You answer on autopilot. Busy, tired. All good. Because digging deeper might uncover something you're not ready to face. Something harder to explain. Something that doesn't make sense in a world obsessed with goals and gratitude and growth. And so, like many others, you keep going. You stay productive. You stay useful. You stay quiet. Because everything seems fine. But under that silence, something has already begun to shift. It doesn't happen in one big moment. There's no explosion, no grand revelation, just a tiny shift, like a faint crack in a window pane, barely visible. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Maybe it's a conversation that feels off, a sentence that echoes too long in your head. Maybe it's someone's smile that looks more like a performance. Or maybe it's just you, sitting alone, surrounded by people, and suddenly feeling completely detached. Something doesn't add up. The crack deepens when you catch yourself faking joy. Not lying exactly, just exaggerating, curating, turning real life into a version of it that feels more acceptable, more presentable. You realize how often you adjust your words, your feelings, even your facial expressions. Not to express, but to fit, to be liked, to be seen as doing well. It hits you that most people are doing the same. Everyone smiling for photos, everyone sharing thoughts that sound wise, even when they feel lost. Everyone chasing meaning, but terrified of looking messy. The world has become a mirror hall. Everyone reflects. No one reveals. You scroll through posts that radiate positivity and purpose, and somehow you feel more alone. Not because they're fake, necessarily, but because they're edited, smoothed, flattened into something digestible, inspirational, light. And lightness becomes a demand. No anger, no fear, no grief. Just wellness, just gratitude, just performance. But your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. It carries the unease, the tension, the discomfort of constantly being on. You realize you're not tired from working. You're tired from pretending, from adjusting your entire self to meet a standard that was never really yours. This is the crack. It's not dramatic, but it's real. And once it starts, it grows. Because deep down, a part of you is done pretending. At first glance, everything looks beautiful, polished, curated. aesthetically pleasing. Your life and the lives of those around you unfold against backdrops that could belong in a commercial. Clean rooms, crafted routines, sunlit mornings, and coffee in perfect cups. But the more you look, the more it feels like a set, like everything was arranged for the camera. The books are barely opened. The plants are dying slowly in their stylish pots. The smiles seem frozen in time, caught mid-performance. Everything looks like life, but nothing feels alive. You begin to notice how often we decorate emptiness, how we use beauty not as expression, but as camouflage, a way to signal that things are okay, even when they're not, as if the right lighting could hide the fatigue, as if the right caption could silence the questions. The world starts to resemble a theater, and everyone plays a part. You have your role, too. You say the lines. You know the right tone. You meet expectations. You stay in character. And sometimes it works. Sometimes the applause, the likes, the praise, the approval almost feels like connection. But then comes the silence. The moment when you put your phone down and there's no more audience, just you. And suddenly, the props feel heavy. The walls feel thin. The joy feels borrowed. You realize how much of modern life is built like a showroom, designed to impress, to distract, to perform. But the soul doesn't thrive on performance. It aches for presence. There's a strange grief in that realization, not because anyone meant harm, but because no one knows how to stop. We've all learned to survive by looking good, and slowly, we've forgotten how to be real. You start to see the cost, friendships that feel like networking, moments that are missed while being documented, goals that feel hollow even when achieved. And deep inside, something begins to rebel. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. You find yourself craving something raw, something unedited, a conversation without agenda, a day without display, a life not made for views, but for truth. That craving becomes your compass. You sleep, you rest, you take a break, but the tiredness stays. It's not in your body, it's deeper, a weight under your skin, a fog behind your eyes. It doesn't go away with 8 hours of sleep or a weekend off, because this exhaustion isn't physical, it's existential. It's the fatigue of pretending, of constantly performing, of showing up as the version of you people expect. Productive, pleasant, resilient. You smile when you're supposed to. Keep moving when you're breaking. Keep achieving when all you want is to stop. You scroll past other people's curated energy, their hustle, their joy, and something inside you quietly shrinks. You begin to live in fragments, a life of checkboxes and small talk, of notifications and deadlines. You move through days on autopilot, eating, working, responding, like someone playing the role of a functioning person. But it feels more like acting than living. And the scariest part is how normal it's become. You've grown used to this numbness, to feeling nothing until it turns into pain, to calling it burnout when it's something closer to despair. But no one wants to hear that. The world rewards stamina, not sensitivity. It values endurance, not honesty. And so you keep going, not because you're strong, but because you don't know what else to do. You try to fix it with productivity, a new habit, a new app, a better schedule. You tell yourself you just need more discipline. But it doesn't work, because you're not tired from doing too much. You're tired from doing things that don't mean anything to you anymore. You long for rest that restores, not just your energy, but your soul. Rest that doesn't feel like laziness, space that doesn't have to be earned. You crave slowness, softness, something real. but the pace around you is relentless, and slowing down feels like falling behind. So you keep running, even if you don't know where, even if it hurts. Because in this world, stopping feels dangerous. As if the moment you pause, everything will collapse. But maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe the collapse isn't the end, but the beginning. The moment you stop pretending you're okay. The moment you admit that this way of living, always on, always available, always performing, is making you sick. And in that truth, something shifts. Not a solution, not a breakthrough, but the quiet beginning of a different rhythm. One where rest isn't weakness and slowness isn't failure. One where being human is enough. Truth doesn't always arrive like a lightning bolt. Often, it's a whisper. Quiet, fragile, almost missable. It doesn't demand your attention. It waits. Until you're still enough to hear it. It's that moment when everything outside feels loud. The opinions, the headlines, the advice, the noise. And suddenly, in the middle of it all, you feel something calm. Something still. A voice not trying to convince or impress. A voice that simply says, "This isn't working." That's the moment truth enters. Not through drama, but through clarity. A soft awareness that what you've been calling normal is slowly hurting you. That the person you're performing as isn't who you really are. That your silence is not peace, it's surrender. And that something inside you is asking to be heard again. But in a world where everything must be bold, bright, and loud to matter, quiet truth is easily overlooked. It doesn't go viral. It doesn't sell. It doesn't fit the algorithm. Because it has no aesthetic. It just is. And that's what makes it so powerful. Truth doesn't decorate itself. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't give you a script. It gives you a mirror. And the first thing you see might be everything you've been avoiding. The burnout you downplay. The loneliness behind your smile. The pressure you pretend is ambition. The roles you've learned to play so well you've forgotten you're acting. But here's what truth doesn't do. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't say, "You failed." It says, "You're here. You're still listening. That's enough." It doesn't demand a radical transformation overnight. It asks for one honest breath. One real answer to the question, how are you, really? And in that moment, you begin to return to yourself. You realize you don't need to have a perfect explanation. You don't need a plan. You don't even need to be strong. You just need to stop lying to yourself, even if everyone around you still is. Truth doesn't scream, but it stays. Long after the motivation fades, long after the applause dies down, it doesn't pull you forward. It roots you. It gives you a place to stand when everything else feels unstable. And little by little, you start choosing differently. Not for show, not for anyone else, but because the old way is too heavy now. You say no, even when it disappoints. You stop chasing what doesn't feel true. You pause before saying, "I'm fine." You leave some things undone, not because you gave up, but because you woke up and no one may notice. No one may understand. But truth isn't about being understood. It's about being whole. And when the world keeps telling you to be faster, louder, shinier, and you choose to be honest instead, that's not weakness. That's resistance. Not every kind of light blinds. Some lights don't flash. They don't sparkle. They don't try to be seen. Some lights stay inside. They're the kind of light that grows slowly, not from perfection, but from presence. From doing the small, quiet things that no one will ever applaud. Like getting up when you'd rather stay down. Like taking care of your body not to change it, but to respect it. Like saying no, even when it costs you. Like showing up to your life, even when no one's watching. This light isn't designed to impress. It doesn't need likes. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply exists, and that's what makes it unshakable. From the outside, nothing may look different. You still live in the same place. You still go to work. You still answer emails, wash dishes, run errands. But something has shifted. You're no longer chasing every illusion. You're no longer trying to win a game you never chose to play. You're no longer performing. That doesn't mean you've figured everything out. It doesn't mean life is suddenly easy or clear. But it means you've found something real enough to hold on to. A reason to be here, not as a version of yourself, but as you. The world may not notice. It rarely does. Because the most powerful changes don't happen in front of a camera. They happen in the quiet, in your thoughts, in your habits, in the moments you choose not to betray yourself. That's where healing begins. Not with a breakthrough, but with consistency. Not with noise, but with honesty. Not with control, but with trust. In the slow return to who you were before the world told you who to be. And maybe nothing outside of you has changed, but you're no longer afraid to feel. You're no longer trying to disappear behind a role. You're no longer living just to survive the week. You're here, fully, and that's rare. That's light. Even if no one can see it from the outside, it's there. And maybe, quietly, your light reminds someone else that they still have theirs too. Maybe that's how things really start to change. Not all at once, but from within. Thank you for watching this video till the end. If you found it interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new content. To dive deeper into the topic, be sure to check out our previous videos. Links are in the description. Share your thoughts in the comments, and see you in the next video.